ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं विष्णुदेवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ धन्वन्तराय नमः। I invoke blessings of Sri Guru, spiritual masters, ascended masters, acharyas of Ayurveda, as well as Lord Dhanvantari, aspect of Vishnu, to bless us so that knowledge of Ayurveda may manifest in us. Knowledge of Ayurveda is not linear, it's circular, it needs to manifest because human being is not just a physical body. Human being has an aspect, they have consciousness, they have spirit, they have Atma, they have the five koshas. So when we talk about a human, we're talking about mind and the body and the soul. So within the body, there's mind, which is the ruler and the king of all the senses. So a balanced person is someone whose senses are balanced. And today's day and age, that's not possible. That's why meditation becomes such an important protocol. What we're doing today is the case study form. And everything we've done in this course from day one, we started off doing what is Ayurveda, then we did the Prakriti test, then we did the Vikriti test, finding out what is the changes. We did the Agni assessment. All of that has been leading up to this form. And from today up till June 15th, you have enough time to do 4 case studies. Out of those 4 case studies, 1 you have to present to us in person, and 3 you can present via email and so on. And this is the most important takeaway of the Block 1 course. And Block 2 is built upon this course. If you're planning to do Block 2, it'll be built upon this case study form, gets more and more and more comprehensive as the year goes along. So right off the bat, you're going to see a case study form. Let me just share the case study form with you. This is what it looks like. You will make 4 copies of this form. They'll be available. And you can use yourself as your own 1 case study and 3 more people. Before, we used to actually just have 2 people. And we didn't think that it actually was enough practice. And, you can find friends, you can find family, and you have to do 4. That's why we're giving you enough time, almost a month, to finish them. A lot of people, they will put it on, if they go to a yoga studio, they'll put it on the board there, needed volunteers for an Ayurvedic assessment. You don't have to do any protocols. That's not the aim and objective of this form. The aim and objective of the form is, can you recognize the root cause of the problem? The root cause is the problem. At the same time, trying to identify the causative factors is important. So this is what it looks like, right? Maybe at the end of the class, I can have one of you volunteer as my case study, so you know exactly. This is what it looks like. On the left-hand side, you have the case study number. So you will do 4 case studies. You can write your name, date. You can write your username. We're going to save this, but do not write the name of the person you're doing the case study for. On the left-hand side, you write number 1, 2, 3, 4. And even if it's a self case study, there's no need to write self. It's just 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. And you can choose one of the case studies that I would prefer, the one that you find most difficulty in doing, especially when you're doing a case study for a man. They're not very forthcoming. So that would be the most important. So you actually present it in person to me and Dr. Kirti. And if you could present 1 case study next week, next Sunday morning, that would be fantastic. If there's no case study, then there's no point having a class. Then we present it in June. And the 3, we will be giving you feedback over email as well. So, of course, you write whether this person is male and female. Why, if this person is female, then we need to ask questions about, whether the, lady is always in a stage, whether they're in, the Pitta stage of life, Kapha stage of life, or Vata stage of life. Vata stage of life means that they're in perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause. Pitta stage of life is somewhere between 15 and 45 or 48 years of age. And Kapha stage of life is young teenager, which you can, please don't do any case study for someone less than 14, 15 years of age. This is not for kids, so teenager is okay, and teenager and above. And we have the dosha test form. So let's go back to this. Number one, please make a disclaimer. Even if you're not charging any money, it's all free, you're just doing it for the school, make a disclaimer that you're not a doctor unless you are one, and this is for informational purposes only. Remember, Ayurveda is not recognized as medicine, but it is recognized in California as a holistic health modality. And different states have different laws. Up till about 5 years ago, it was not recognized in New Mexico. And in places like Nevada, an Ayurvedic practitioner cannot touch and check the pulse. You could do that here in California because it's done as biofeedback. So please get a disclaimer signed. I'm not a doctor. This is for informational purposes only. I have a disclaimer on my website. You can use mine. You can make one of your own. Please make sure it's signed. It's for informational purposes only. If you do suggest some herbs, these herbs are informational, not recognized. They're not meant to cure, diagnose any disease. And going forward, when you actually have real-time clients, please make sure that you have a very professional-looking disclaimer. So please do not put your case study's name and keep it anonymous. Why do we want to do that? Last time we had one student who didn't care because it was her and her family, so that was fine with us. But remember, we share your case studies. You know, we have a database. We share your case studies with other students sometimes. So we kind of really don't want to know, and we also want to protect the privacy of your clients. Please put your batch name followed by your name. Now we've had over 225 students, so at this point we can't keep track of, you know, you've had many names. You had about 5 Anns and 3 Carolyns, and you are second Angel. you have 2 Deborahs, so we don't know which one did it. So having the batch name lets us know from this batch this is the person. So if you're batch 16, you write 16 dash whatever your username is. And also when you save the case study file, you will save it as a case study 01 14A dash Atul, or 16 dash Celia, or 16 or 15 dash Laura. So we know when we save it, we know what to do. Okay. Now you can actually, if you are very used to using PDF, Adobe Reader PDF allows you to annotate online on the PDF form itself. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is actually print it out, use neat and clean handwriting, and then a lot of people take a really good picture with their whatever smartphone and upload the picture. That works totally fine. You can upload the picture. Or you can scan it if you have a scanner, but a lot of people nowadays, everybody has been, they write it with a pen and a paper. I suggest you use 2 sheets. Because my handwriting is so bad when I'm doing a consult that I actually use 2 sheets. I use a sheet for my notes, and then I actually copy it down, and I make a copy for my patient because I'm just doing it so fast. So because this is the case study that you're submitting to the school, so it is very important that you need and clean handwriting. So you can use like a rough page for your notes and then copy it onto the case study form. Or you can type it later. But you please have 2 copies of the case study form, one for your notes and one that you'll actually submit. And this is something that students have given us feedback that first time they can't do it. So this is one of the best practices that we are sharing here. If need be, redo the form in a neat form. If we cannot read it, we cannot. Each of the case study form that you submit is a credit for you. You need to submit 4 of them, and each one, is a credit, and that's how you graduate the course. So if you cannot read it, we'll ask you to redo it anyway. Now, this is very important. When you do a case study with a client, has anyone done any kind of, consultations with any client? Deborah, Angel, have you done anything even for yoga? Yeah, so setting up an intention, whether it's even a yoga class or a meditation class or even a regular visit. You know, a person can walk with 20 different problems, and you know, we are facilitators to help them with the problem. We kind of acting as a guide, but setting up the intention, you have like 60 minutes or 1 hour, let's say, with one person, or maybe a little bit more or a little bit less. What is it that you want to address in this session? So I have known people when you know students are interning with me sometimes. Someone walks in and they take 2.5, 3 hours, and that's fine. They want to do that. But one of the reason is because they did not set up an intention. You cannot cover every single thing. One of the things that I do with my patients and clients is, let's say I have a couple coming today for a consultation. I send them the Prakriti and Vikriti form, Agni assessment form, and what they are eating, and they send it back to me, and I already have it with me, and I already know what questions to ask them and what to look for when they walk in through the door. Because this is an Ayurvedic consultation, it's going to be very, very, and I also have certain things already printed out that I'm going to give them. Otherwise, you know, instead of 2 hours, because there are two people, I'm going to end up taking 5 hours. I'm wasting their time and mine. And it has to be an efficient way of doing a consultation. Now, this is a very practical advice. It has to be efficient. In the beginning, if you don't know how to do the pulse, you'll probably, you know, I mean, I start off, I have a person walk in. If they haven't had anything to eat, I do take their pulse, I look at the tongue, I look at the eyes, I look at the ears, I do a biofeedback, with body testing, and then I look at the forms, and oh, yeah, I exactly know what's happening already, provided I have the forms before. So by 25, 30 minutes, you know, I kind of know what is happening here. And I spend the 1 hour talking about what is it that can be achieved and so on. So approximately, you know, my consults take 1.5 hours. Um, and then my follow-ups that I do with my clients take 30 minutes. And again, I send them a form beforehand that they need to fill and send it to me, what's working, what's not working. So when we meet for a consultation, I know exactly what questions to ask. So these are practical things that you will learn, and so we're trying to share some best practices. Now, this is very important. Now, if you're already a clinician, you know that you have to find out the causative factors within the interview. And if we can eliminate the causative factors, let's say a person is stressed out and has headaches and insomnia and a lot of problems, and part of the problem is that they're in a job that they hate, and they have to drive 2 hours to get to their job, and you know that is, and they're telling you that's my problem. Can they leave the job, or can they do something about the driving? If they can, you remove the causative factor. If they can't, then what is it that we can help offer them in whatever way we can? I want to share this form with you. It's done by one of our ex-students who happens to be an MD, and she has written the factors that aggravate this patient. And this is one of the most important things. We need to find out the story, why a person is constipated, why this is happening, why they're swelling, why is this happening? So right, the Vata is aggravated because there's been too much travel recently, lack of daily routine, many changes in life, stress, caffeine. This is exactly how we want you to do it. Concise, efficient, all the causative factors right there. This is why having another page where you're writing all their story. I have been traveling recently, I've not been sleeping, I've had whatever personal life stress, work stress. What are the kind of stresses we have? It is either coming from our work or personal life, finances, relationships, kids, you know, traveling, environment. I don't like the cold, so find out where, or I mean, we're taking care of someone who's been sick. Find out what's happening from, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually, what is happening in their life. Pitta is aggravated because drinking coffee again, hot baths, too much spicy food, hot at night, night sweats, recent sunburn, beach, excessive sun exposure. This is just to kind of let you know, by doing the form, she found out the person had a pitta, excess pitta, and vata predominance. And how you're going to find that out will come in a few seconds. But here is exactly, that's more than enough protocol for now. Stop drinking coffee, do coconut oil abhyanga, take rose jam, turmeric, and ghee. And that's good enough. Why? Because it depends on how motivated the person you're working with. If you have a person, especially a kapha person, or somebody who's not motivated to change their diet, somebody who's not motivated to do a lot of things, maybe they don't even believe what Ayurveda is. So give them simple protocol. It's not about I'll give you yoga and meditation and herbs and the diet. No, it's one thing at a time. If you give them a few things, a rose jam itself, a good rose jam will help hot sweats. It'll pacify the pitta, it'll pacify the vata. There's skin issue, rosacea here, coconut oil abhyanga. Just eating fresh food and stopping coffee will help vata. Ghee will help the constipation and pitta vata. So, already so many things will already be helped with, a little bit of daily routine and a little bit of seasonal routine, and that's good enough. It depends. It doesn't have to be a lot of protocols. For yourself, you can do it. People have children and they're stretched in so many different directions, especially women, and especially when they're moms. They're trying to study, they're trying to or go to school, drive their kids. It's a lot of stuff happening at a lot of different levels. By women can multifunction and multitask, and a lot of things happen. So we need to not give a lot of protocols unless they're like very 100% committed. It can be simple things. We have to work with what a person's intention is. So I right off the bat ask a person, what is your commitment to change? Ayurveda is holistic. There's no drug. It's holistic. How are we going to change? Are you willing to change your daily routine? Are you willing to change a seasonal routine? How many changes are you willing to do? And then I know what. So this is one of the perfect case studies he had. Let's go back to the case study form. So first thing first, you can do the dosha test. There's many dosha tests. There's the dosha test that you did. You did it from our website. I actually have a dosha test on my website that Atul created that people can do online. There's a lot of websites out there who have dosha tests. You can use dosha tests from Dr. Vasanblad. I'll give you the resource, the URL number. There's hundreds of dosha tests out there. Use anyone you like. It doesn't matter. But we only want you to do the original constitution. So you can ask your case study to do the Prakriti test when they were between 10 and 15 years of age. And if it's a girl, when she hit puberty, when she started a period, and so on. If they don't remember, whatever they can, that'd be good. So we only want you to do the Prakriti test, not the Vikruti, because it's from this form you'll find out the Vikruti. This is a special form for practitioners. And how do we find out the Vikruti? We are finding out the Vikruti through the vitiation of the subdoshas. For example, let's say Vata is most dominant, followed by Pitta, Kapha is least. So we already, all of us know how to do it. If you don't, set up a time with me. I'll help you how to do this. So everybody knows how to do this, right? All of you know how to take the dosha test or help someone else take it. Perfect. So now you've done the dosha test, you know these numbers. Once you know this number, you put the number here. Okay. So case study number 1, sex female, Ayurvedic age Pitta, and we have done the dosha test and we found this. Now, after this, we will find out the Agni. It's called Mala Pariksha or elimination. Agni is the next most important thing. So if you were to look at all the form, the most important thing you can take from this entire form is the Agni assessment. Because all diseases, according to Ayurveda, 90% of diseases will start from derangement of Agni. So this we have done. So start with Agni or bowel movement or Mala assessment. So you already did this test for yourself, the Agni assessment, right? We ask questions about, the one thing about when we ask a person, is your digestion good, fair, poor? People don't have any idea. I've had people who go to bathroom once every 2 days and then they think their digestion is fine. I've had to explain the meaning of constipation to people. So please be mindful of that. What is a person, because who talks about poop in this country? Seriously, nobody. So, you know, a good question to ask is, first, do you get hungry? When you eat your food, how much time passes before you go and have a bowel movement? Are you going once a day? Are you going twice a day? So you can also set the intention right in the beginning that Ayurveda, there is no invasive test. We don't have a blood test or anything. The only way we find out what's going on inside your body is talking about what's coming out of your body. We need, like we will check the sputum, we will check the nasal crust, we will check the mucus, we will check the earwax, we will talk about the color and of the urine, we will talk about the stool, because what's coming out of the body is telling us what's going inside the body. That is important. So you can set the intention that we have to talk about this, and you can warn a person, because otherwise they'll be taken aback and, oh, I'm not sure I want to talk about this. And if it's a lady, tell them we're going to be asking you some personal questions about your menstrual cycle. And if it's a lady, we might even ask questions about licorrhea or vaginal discharges. And it's part of what's coming out is telling us what's going inside. Very important. People are shy about, with a regular doctor they can still, but if you're not, they can be shy about this. So, and you have to respect and take their permission, because we don't want to cross any boundaries. At the same time, we have to cross the boundaries with their permission. Otherwise, we don't know what's happening inside. So when you ask these questions, digestion is good, fair, poor, tell them what you mean by the digestion. How much time it takes, how many bowel movements do they have. Eventually, as you reach your 4th case study, you'll probably have a way of doing everybody has their own way of doing things. You'll probably find that out as well. So by doing this form, you find out whether a person has mandagani. Things just move slowly. They have a low basal metabolic rate. From the time they wake up in the morning, they're not that hungry. If they can go without food. Food takes a long time to digest. They get 1 bowel movement a day. They don't get constipated, but food just kind of moves slowly, right? And if somebody tends to get constipated, they have hard stools, and the stools are really, they have to strain, and the stools are slightly dark in color, then it's irregular Agni. High Agni stools are soft, slightly yellowish, not as dark, and don't have to strain at all, and it's 2 to 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 bowel movements a day, and they get really, really, really hungry. And if they don't eat something, oh my God, I need to eat. It's a whole thing about, oh, the blood sugar level drops if I don't eat. So it's called Mala Pariksha. And Agni, also you can ask a question. This is not part of the course, but you can, if a person doesn't sweat easily, they have low Agni. Because sweat is also an elimination. If somebody sweats a lot and without doing any effort, they have a high Agni. So you can ask about that too. Usually Pitta person will pass a lot of urine unless they're dehydrated. Vata person, actually not so much. And Kapha person, not so much. But also their thirst. A Pitta person will feel really thirsty comparatively. So this is not part of the course, but it's just to give you an idea about what's happening inside. Is what's coming out of the body is giving an idea of what's happening with the Agni. Very, very important slide. So as soon as we do questions about Agni, we find out the state of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bodha Kapha, Kleda Kapha, Pachak Pitta, Samana Vata, Apana Vata. Now this is actually something that we do in block 2. We actually start comparing regular anatomy and regular functions, whether it's in nervous system or circulatory system or lymphatic system or digestive system, and kind of start placing Ayurveda there so there's a frame of reference. So let's start here. In your mouth is your salivary glands. And the moment we take food and we start eating it, saliva is an enzyme. Saliva is enzymes that start breaking up the food, right? So the process of digestion, forget that. As soon as we are looking at the food, we look at something which is really tasty, our mouth starts salivating. Body is preparing to digest the food. All of that is happening. If the tongue is dry, if there's no water on the tongue, A, we cannot taste anything. That means there's lack of water element, there's lack of rasa, we are dehydrated, and it also means digestion is affected. Very simple. So by knowing if a person's Agni is variable and their tongue is dry, we immediately know lack of water element, meaning we need to rehydrate a person. And water is also fats. And Ayurveda fats, good fats, ghee, and good fats are all water element. And of course, giving more soups, making sure the person is not having raw food and so on and so forth. So dry mouth indicates it's right here. So by talking about Agni, immediately we know Bodha Kapha. And after Bodha Kapha, try to find out, there's a system behind it. It's more, so instead of saying what is Vata, what is Pitta, what is Kapha, we are taking the route by the digestive system. Kleda Kapha. Now Kleda Kapha is your mucosal lining in the stomach. So there's actually a lining here in the esophagus, but it's a different kind of lining. It has these ridges, and the reason the tissue has ridges is because the food has to have a peristalsis and it has to be pushed down. And it also has some mucosa there in the esophagus, but here in the stomach, the tissue lining is very straight. If the acid were to go in the stomach, it would actually eat the stomach. The acid would start corroding the lining of the stomach. That's how ulcers happen. So Kleda Kapha is, as soon as the food is mixed with saliva and it's coming down, it's getting mixed, it's called chayal, which we call ahara rasa. And the food is getting mixed up here, and this is the function of Kleda Kapha. So when someone has lack of water, their mouth is dehydrated, automatically we know it is possible that, Kleda Kapha is also might be affected. And also, if there's excessive salivation, then also Bodha Kapha is affected. Pachak Pitta. So you have the common bile duct, and from the bile duct comes all these bile, and all the acid, the HCl, all the digestive enzymes are under the purview of Pachak Pitta. Now, Pachak Pitta cannot function on its own. Agni helps. So Agni is the ignition switch. For example, you have a gas, you have a stove, and if you did not have a match to light the stove, then what is the point? You need something to light the fire. So Agni is the ignition switch that lights the fire, and then Pitta works through the Agni. So think of, I would say Agni is the actual stove and the ignition switch, and Pachak Pitta is the actual fire. Does that make sense? A question here, Kleda does not protect the esophagus. No. Nope. So it's the salivary enzymes there is mucosa there, but it's a different kind of mucosa. Kleda Kapha is a different kind. Its entire function is to protect your stomach. Yes. Okay. So the Pachak Pitta, now we know the difference between Pitta and Agni. I had some really interesting answers on Pitta and Agni. So the Agni and Pitta will work through the Agni. So by finding out how, for example, if a person has regurgitation, or they have acid reflux, or they have acidity, that means what? Pachak Pitta is high or low? Exactly. Thank you. So if a person has or let's say you find a person, they don't have good digestion. I always ask the question, have you ever had to take digestive enzymes? Because people have to, especially Vata people. And their body does not produce enough digestive enzymes. This is why we say Vatas should drink orange juice or have citrus fruits. with fiber and citrus because it's acidic. We want them to have acidic things so the food can break down. But if it's a pitta person, do not take acidic foods. Have foods which are more alkaline, and do not take too much citrus or salt because they already have a high pachak pitta. Their body already produces more digestive enzyme, more bile, and more acid. Is that making sense? Is it all coming together now? So by questioning a person on Agni, you can simultaneously question a person on Bodha Kapha, Kleda Kapha, Pachak Pitta. Now let's talk about Samanavata. Samanavata, for the purpose of learning, we say that, it moves the food, but what is it exactly doing? As soon as, the food, right in the stomach, the food starts getting mixed up, which is Samanavata, and then it's pushed into the intestines, which is also Samanavata. But once it's pushed into the intestines, it is the Apanavata that is pushing the food down here. So the Vata is the same. And also it's Udanavata right here that is pushing. It is also related to, indirectly related to So Udanavata. So Udanavata, you have your thyroid gland, you actually swallow the food. If someone has a person's, if somebody has problems swallowing their food, then Udanavata and prana is affected. This is a block 2 topic. I don't want to get into this. But we really need you to have your subdoshas on your fingertips. Trust me, this is a foundation course. It gets tough after this because we assume that you already know. We don't even say Bodha Kapha. We say we in block 2 we start talking about Pachak Samanapan, Bodhak, and this issue, and then we go into pathology, how the subdoshas are traveling into the dhatus and causing problems. So it's a different level. So it's very important that you should have. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough. You should know exactly the location and function of each subdosha. Each subdosha. More than the dosha, the subdosha becomes more important in this case. So from the oral cavity, they're swallowing, prana is swallowing the food. So if, there's people who have issues with swallowing, or they say the food kind of gets stuck here, or they'll say the food gets stuck here, and it's a prana issue. So prana is helping swallowing and it's pushing the food down along with the help of Udanavata, but it's a secondary function. It's not directly related to Agni, which is why we didn't talk about it. But herein, from the moment the food is taken and from the moment it's eliminated, this entire thing is called Annavaha Srotas. Again, this is a block 2 thing. I just wanted to give you some hint of what we are doing in block 2. Shrotas is a channel. Anna means grain. So Annavaha, from the moment you put food in the mouth till the time it is eliminated through the anus, it is Annavaha Shrotas. And what about the water? When the water is coming out of urinary tract, it's Udakvaha or Ambuvaha Shrotas, meaning the Shrotas that control the water in the body. And all the diseases are, for example, anything that relates to the GI tract, anything, it doesn't matter, is under the purview of disease or imbalance of the Annavaha Shrotas. Clear the passages, balance the Angani, and a person is back to the track of wellness. Is it making sense where Ayurveda goes with diseases? It is not, there will be many more diseases related to whatever it may be that will happen later. I mean, celiac disease is a very new thing. But it doesn't matter what new diseases come because we are looking at the whole picture instead of, you're looking at the Agni, we're looking at the whole. So we're looking at the whole picture. Even if a new disease were to be discovered or some new allergies come in, we will still say it is Annavaha Shrota issue. And we will still say Pitta Vata Kapha. We will find out which subdosha is a problem. We will find out which Agni is a problem, and we'll try to balance it with Agni pacifying diet or Agni pacifying balancing herbs or yoga or meditation. So finding the root cause is more important at this point than the protocol itself. Is it making sense? Protocol, at the end of the day, balance the Agni, balance Vata, Pitta, Kapha. That's the protocol. But which one, how do you know? It could be a Pitta person, but they need Vata pacifying. It could be a Kapha person, but they need Vata pacifying. How do you know? By looking at the subdoshas. Or they might need, you know, step A, step B, step C. Again, that's a block 2 thing. Right now, it's just trying to find out what is happening. So 4 case studies. If you have 1 case study submitted within this week, then we'll have a class next week and you can present it in front of anyone. And the next 3 you can do it by June 15th. So this is the one that you had done. Is your digestion good, fair, poor? Is your appetite strong, moderate, mild, and so on and so on? Do you feel heavy? So we did this. You know, all of this gas and flatulence and belching and bloating is all Saman, Vata issues, heartburn, acid is all Pitta issues, reflux is all Pitta. So all of this, especially if, you know, like I said, if the food is coming out, there's all Pachak Pitta issues. So very, very easy to find out on this form what's happening. Now, what all have we found out? We have found out by doing the Agni assessment 1, 2, 3. We have found out what's happening here because Pachak Pitta is digestion it's in the stomach, it's in the intestine, it's in the duodenum, breaking down of the food through production of digestive enzymes, digestion, assimilation, acid. If someone has acid reflux, diarrhea, ulcer, heartburn, IBS, that means too much Pachaka. If they have lack of digestive enzymes or GI tract issues, it's low, so it's right here. And if somebody has problems swallowing and so on and so forth, it's prana issue. I'm not going to get into that. And if the food is moving slowly or they have gas, belching, flatulence, it's all here. And if they have lack of taste, they can't taste anything or mouth feels dry, then it's these 2. So just by doing the Agni, we've already done 5 subdoses related to digestion. And you will give the numbers that you give here. Let's say you find out all of these things are issue. Let's say for the case, you know, hypothetically, you found out the person's has acid reflux, also has gas. So we will give it, but it, you know, do you have acid every day or do you have gas? Gas I have sometimes, but acid I have every 3 days. So you will give this 2 points. You will maybe give this 0.5. You could give, you know, more points. You could give 1.5. It doesn't matter what you give. But this is the reason I gave it 2 points is it's something that is happening regularly. And sometimes the person says sometimes I have lack of taste in my mouth, right? It's just a thing I made up, you know, number. If you don't want to do numbers, you can just, you know, circle it. That's good enough. However way you do it, everybody has a different way of doing it. You'll have to, as you go along, you will discover and make your new way. Now, if it's a woman, you'll have to do the women issues too. So let's go straight into the women issues. You know, the Pitta ladies, the Vata ladies, and the Kapha ladies. If it's a Pitta lady, she will usually have heavy bleeding. If they're already on some kind of birth control, you can ask before you were in birth control or before you had this, did you used to have heavy bleeding before? We want to find out what was happening before they were on birth control or before they were taking some pacifying protocol for it. Did they have a regular cycle? Did they have painful cramps? Did they get temperamental, hot? Did they have a heavy bowel movement during their menstrual cycle? If it's a lady in menopause or perimenopause, oh my God, and they have hot flashes. These are bad hot flashes. It's because already a person is pitta and they're getting a hot flash. It's like they're incubators. They can't sleep. and then they get upset with their partners and so on. So you want to find out whatever it may be. It could be a pitta type of menopause. It could be a pitta type of menstrual cycle. And even if a person is a perimenopausal, you can still ask, when you did have periods, were they heavy? Because it tells us what's happening with, or what has happened with them in the past. Also possible pitta ladies might have some, or vata ladies might have some polycystic ovary syndrome. Vata person sometimes is anemic, not always, but chances of a vata person being anemic is high, and they might have irregular periods, low flow, general cramping. Their periods last 1 to 3 days. Pitta can last 7 days. They tend to be anemic. They may get polycystic ovary syndrome. This is outside the scope of a course, but I just kind of wanted to throw out there that it might be possible. They do tend to have PMS, and when a vata lady has a child, the chances of having a vata person having the postpartum depression for a longer period of time, because they need to be grounded, especially if their diet is not grounded. Kapha ladies do tend to get regular periods, but it's a thick flow. Kapha will also get a lot of vaginal discharge, which is white in color, and it's because there's too much kapha in their system. So of course, if it's a kapha lady, it's called leukorrhea. And if the periods have stopped altogether, you have dysmenorrhea, you have amenorrhea. All of these, what is happening with their menstrual cycle lets us know whether it's a pitta, vata, or kapha problem. Okay, but you can have a pitta person with a kapha issue too. This is why we are targeting the subdoshas. When you go to block 2, we talk about specific herbs and diet for Brajak Pitta, or because we are now moving into breaking down things for you. So now we have found out if the person, so we have, for the sake of understanding, this is a Vata Pitta person. Let's say their periods are this. Okay. And I'm going to give this point, I'm going to give this 2 because it has always been irregular. Let's move. Okay, let's talk about, oh, sorry. When we did Agni, we also found out Apana, urination, elimination, menstruation, sexual discharges, labor pains. All of this is in the Apana. One of the most important things. With Apana, you can give it as high as 5 points, because Apana is one of the most important things. Apana is telling us, what is happening below, and Apana is directly opposite to Prana. So if Prana is too high, Apana will be low. If Apana is too high, Prana will be low. It kind of balances each other. But again, that's a block 2 topic. At this point, you don't have to compare them. If a person doesn't have enough urination, their elimination, they're constipated, they have low flow, and they tend to be anemic, problems in labor pains, dryness, gas, low menstrual fluid, irregular periods, that means low Apana. Loose stools, 2-3 bowel movements, heavy bleeding during menses, PCOS, GERD can be attributed to high Apana. But this is not 100%. We have to have other things too, like we do other biofeedback tests. We find out what's happening with the dhatus. But this is like pretty much a foundation. Things build up on this. All right, let's find out other things. So now that you've done your Agni, you have done all this, we've already crossed out Samana. We've crossed out Apana. When we did the digestion assessment, we already found out Apana, Samana. Now, Prana is to do with energy, swallowing. You find out about the energy levels. When you find out about the energy levels, you say, okay, what are your energy levels like? They'll say, oh yeah, it's fine. Do you take any coffee, tea? Do you take any herbs for energy? Oh yeah, I take ginseng. All right. If you were to not take any coffee, tea, or ginseng, what would your energy levels be? That's a question. Because people are always on something, women get their periods and they feel tired, and then they take things to increase their energy, whether they're Whatever they need to do, they will take teas. So we want to find out, without all the external supplements that a person may be taking, what are their energy levels. And usually around one time of the day, the energy will crash, and it will usually be the Vata time of the day, because Pitta time of the day between approximately 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 11 o'clock in the afternoon to about 3 is the Pitta time of the day, and our energy was highest during that time. It peaked during that time, and now it's crashing in the Vata time of the day, and it's a natural cycle. So people will feel, a normal low. But and then the reason is body is now preparing for Kapha time of the day, so body can wind down and relax and you can have a good night's sleep. But at this time of the day, when a person tries to work and exercise, they're actually aggravating themselves. So there's a time for exercise, there's a time to eat. So you find out about the energy levels, you find out different things about prana. If a person has low energy, variable fatigue, low energy, lack of clarity, fatigue, feeling tired all the time, lack of reason, enthusiasm, check their breathing. Shallow breathing and all kind of respiratory issues. If they have, as a child, suffered from asthma, every seasonal allergies, that is all prana vahas rotas. From the moment we inhale air through our nasal passages and they go in the lungs and then we exhale out, it's all prana. You have the clinical prana vahas rotas from where air is going in and air is going out. Check their chest if they have shallow breathing, if they're holding their breath, because that will affect their energy levels. Especially if you're a yoga teacher or you've done yoga, you will even notice that. And people will hold their breath. So ask about prana. This is to do with energy and fatigue. If a person has, now this is much more comprehensive, and we're just throwing it out there. Tejas means a person has no radiance in their skin, lack of luster. Let's look at the skin. But Tejas is a lot more than that, but for block 1, that's what it is. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to give you a little activity. Let me just restart. Pachaka Pitta resides in the small intestine and the stomach and is part of the whole digestion process and works through the Agni. And the root word here is pak, that means to cook. Alochak, the root word is lochan, meaning eyes. Brajak, braj is, I'm sorry, skin. Ranjaka, ranj, red color, liver. Sadhaka, root word, think sadhana, practice of the mind. Sadhaka, pitta, is the ability to process information and emotions. It resides in the heart and brain, both. Okay. When we say heart, do we say, when you say, romantically to someone, you live in my, I love you, we point to our heart. Why don't we point to our brain? I love you. In my brain, I love you. You love in your heart. All the emotions reside in your heart. That is sadhaka pitta. It's a little bit hard to understand. Okay, let's go back to pitta. The reason I had given pitta above the vata is because it's easier to find out. Pitta is more, vata is, even though vata is the first one, it's made of air and space. I put the pitta before because it's kind of easier to ask questions about pitta to a client because they're more comfortable. For example, if you have a client and you straight away start asking questions about, oh, have you had bad speech or have you had problems communicating with someone? Udana vata, have you had constipation? They might get uncomfortable. But starting a conversation with skin, every lady loves to talk about skin. Oh, this skin, my skin used to be beautiful because it's kind of, appealing to the ego aspect. So I just, found in my practice, and I've had thousands of interviews and consultations, it's just easier to, it's a conversation starter. So have you had any skin issues, Dry skin is more vata issue, or redness, oily, rosacea, adult acne, rash, inflammation, varicose veins. I mean, when we go in block 2, you'll understand the spider veins or varicose veins are a symptom where vata has traveled to the rakta dhatu and so on and so forth. But for now, it's a Brajapitta issue. So, it's a good conversational starters once you've done the Agni Pariksha. And, people will tell you what's happening. So very quickly, if they have eczema, rosacea, redness, dry skin, acne, rash, inflammation, boils, pus, anything happening in the skin, please just give it a point. Okay, this is happening, right? Now, in this case study also, we had this lady, she had oil in her T-zone, rosacea issues, and night sweats. Rajat Pitta was affected, which is telling us what's happening inside her body. Because once you have something on the top layer of your skin, skin has 7 layers, and the seventh or the top layer of the skin, things have traveled from the bottom down to all the 7 layers to give this. That means imagine what's happening inside the body. And herein, look at this. The eyes are red and watery and they stink. So 2 pittas here. And then there's constipation. It's a pitta person, but there's constipation. There's gas and diarrhea. Because in real life, nobody is a perfect vata or perfect pitta or perfect kapha. Because we are a combination. And if you're studying to be a practitioner, we will have to divide this and say, okay, what's the issue? And then we talk about what is the most important issue that we need, what is the root cause that we need to eliminate. And this is why we will help you with your case studies. So it's not like you're being tested on it and you present the case study and there's a right or wrong answer. Once you've done your case study, we'll help you with it. We're going to help you do your case study. All right. So this is done. And let's look at the eyes now. Alochaka, visual perception. So locha means vision. Lochaka means vision. Locha aka, perception. And even if somebody has, I cannot visualize this happening, I cannot envision this. That is also a problem of alochak. Because think about where we see. Do our eyes see? Yes or no? Is it our eyes that see vision? Yes or no? Yes, that's correct. Our eyes do not see vision. It's the brain that sees. Eyes only process light, just like in a camera. So the light travels through the eyes, but the vision is formed in the brain. Does it make sense? Similarly, when somebody has in their brain a problem visualizing, for example, there are people who are hands-on learners, there are auditory learners, and there are visual learners. So visual perception, I cannot visualize this. Oh my God, I need to digest it. I need to visualize it. Even of intuition, a person is very intuitive and creative. That is alochak. And you ask, I used to be very intuitive and psychic, and now I just can't tap that portion of me. That means alochak is affected. Isn't making sense? Because this is not just your eyes, it's your ability to visualize. And it will affect, locha literally means light. Light is affected, and all eye issues, inner vision, intuition, visualizing thoughts and ideas, all of that is under the purview of alochaka. So you've done that, and let's talk about sadhaka. Sadhaka is very, very interesting. So, if we were to have a direct correlation with sadhak, we could say it is the front lobe of the brain, and if you've heard of things like IQ test, that is testing the sadhaka. But no, sadhaka is also when a person cannot process some information, unable to process thoughts, ideas, love. Their heart is completely depleted. I'm feeling cold. I just don't feel anything. But it's in the heart. It is in the heart. Sadhaka, pitta resides in the heart and the mind, which is a very, this is something we address in the, so when you start Ayurveda block 2 in July, the first one, I think you'll be doing Ayurveda and the mind in July. And then you will be doing Ayurvedic nutrition in August. So when you do Ayurveda in the mind, one of the things that we address is the role of sadhak pitta in intellect and heart, and how are they connected? Because what is in our heart? Our soul is in the heart. Our heart chakra is there. In fact, sadhak pitta powers the heart chakra. It governs emotions such as contentment, memory, intelligence, digestion of thoughts, ideas. Um, Also, when we love or even all kind of emotions are processed. Have you ever said this? You've been given some good news or bad news. Okay, you just won the lottery. You've won $10 million. Oh my God, I can't digest it because sadhak pitta hasn't processed it for you. Sadhak pitta is your CPU. It's your central processing unit. And can it work alone? I'm sorry, it never works alone. If it works, its partner in crime is pranavata. When the prana is affected, the sadhaka is affected. Usually they go hand in hand. Is it too much? Am I giving too much information? I don't have to. I can make it simple. Yeah, this is like kind of going, yeah, okay, all right. So prana is very difficult topic to understand. Yeah, I kind of wanted to put everything together. I mean, officially this is the last class, and now we are just going to be doing case studies and assignments and discussing that over the forum. So I wanted to give something, a little bit more meaty, so to speak. All right, so sadhak cannot, if a person's prana is low, then sadhak will not work because prana also resides in the heart and then it travels to the mind. It travels through pranavahasrotas and manovahasrotas. Both of them together, if a person's, usually sadhak is not working, then prana is also not working. Look at this. Creative thinking, reason, enthusiasm, process thoughts, ideas, memory, intelligence, digestion of thoughts. Isn't it very, very, so lack of clarity, memory lapse, unable to process too much information, lack of enthusiasm, shallow breathing, blocked respiratory passages. If someone is not breathing properly, it'll affect their ability to process information, as simple as that. Prana and sadhaka work together. One cannot function without the other. Does it make sense? All right. So we have done Rajak, Alochak, Pachak, Sadhak, Pitta woman. Now let's talk about Ranjak. Now, Ranja. Ranja literally means red color. So think of Ranjak, red color, liver, formation of red blood cells. If a person is anemic, or let's say their stools are a little whitish or pale in color, would we say that Ranjak Pitta is affected, yes or no? Exactly. If a person is anemic, then their Ranjak Pitta is affected. Ability to process, uh, or a person has had jaundice, for instance, or their eyes are yellow. But even though liver issues are not part of the course, it tells us what's happening. Have you been anemic in the past? Or, if somebody uh, has an ability to process fat, do you feel a little bit problems when you process fat? Or if their eyes are a little bit yellow, then the Ranjak Pitta is affected. But really, even if it is affected, we do not tackle Ranjak Pitta in block 1 at all. No protocols for this. All we do is you have to give a Agni pacifying and Pitta pacifying diet. If a person has a low Ranjaka, or issue with Ranjaka, you can ask them to take things like dates and some minerals and so on. But at this point, the protocol of Ranjak is not part of this because it's a very complex. Ranjak Pitta is a class on its own, which we will do in block 2. It's an entire class on its own. Sadhak is a class on its own. Pachak is a class on its own. So imagine there's a class on everything. There's a lecture on each and every one. So this is kind of like the takeaway for this entire course. If a person has Vyana, we are saying it's blood circulation, blood pressure, perspiration, sense of touch. What does sense of touch got to do with circulation? So this will all become clear later on. But basically, think of Vyana, anything that moves in the body. So if you have to go from from San Francisco to down to Santa Barbara, you need to go take the freeway. If there was no freeway, you cannot travel. And then you need to get in the car and travel. And you have different things. You need to, let's say you need to send something to the East Coast. You will send it through either FedEx, or you will send it through, U.S. Postal Service, or, you will ship it in different ways. Think of Vyan Vata it is the logistics of your body. When things need to move, Vyana is moving. The food, let's go back to this particular slide. So once the food is here, from here, before portion of the food is going through the intestine so it can be eliminated and water can be absorbed and nutrients can be absorbed through it. What happened to these nutrients that are getting absorbed in the body? Can anybody tell me? So the food is going down and getting eliminated. While it's going down, nutrients are being absorbed from the food. What is happening to the nutrients that are being absorbed by the water that is being absorbed, and the nutrients that are being absorbed? They are being carried by Vyana Vata to the blood, to the dhatu. Vyana Vata is your, is the postal service. It will carry stuff. It carries and moves. That's its function. Does it make sense? So blood circulation, circulation of food, circulation of blood, circulation of thoughts, circulation. Vyan doesn't even work alone. Vyan works with sadhak pitta. Is it making sense? Sadhak pitta, Vyan, Vata, and Prana are teammates. Let's write this down here. Why are they teammates? Because make sense? Now, why is Sadhak Pitta, Vyan, Vata, and Prana kind of teammates? Why do you think? I've given you a hint here. Come on, think about it. Okay. That's a good one. All involved in circulation, yes. They rely on each other to function. Exactly. All right, that's a funny looking. I'm trying to make a drawing with my mouse here. Basically, Vyana Vata resides in your heart. It's a location, and it functions and it circulates, and the origin is in the heart. Sadhak Pitta also resides in the heart. But instead of circulating down, Sadhak Pitta is also residing here. It's residing in two places. So it's moving. So Sadhak Pitta is residing from here to here, and Vyana is residing here. And Prana is also residing here. Because of their location and where they're residing, they're all working together. So if someone has low blood pressure, do they feel low energy? Yes or no? If they have low blood pressure, they feel sometimes difficulty breathing. Yes or no? They cannot process their emotion. All of them work together. Exactly. So just like you had a team that works, so Pran, Vyan, Sadhak are involved in emotions, processing of information, breathing, your respiratory issues. All three of them are involved in that. blood pressure, perspiration, sense of touch, circulation, low or high blood pressure, congested lymph, unable to form intimate relationships. Why Vyan Vata is involved with intimate relationships? Because Vyan works with, if a person is unable to form intimate relationships because their Vyan is not talking to their Sadhak Pitta, they're not working together. And what is, if somebody's Sadhak Pitta is affected, what do? First of all, you ask them not to watch too much TV. You ask them to meditate. You ask them to use things like essential oil of rose and sandalwood to calm them down, or lavender, or jasmine. You ask them to put coconut oil with, sandalwood and rose and lavender and mint on their head regularly. You teach them to wind down. You do pranayama. What affects sadhaka will be pranayama, pranayama, pranayama. All three of them. Protocol for all three is meditation, pranayama, yoga. Of course, there's herbs for it as well, which is not part of the course. But is it all making sense? By knowing what is happening here, we can find out what is the best. So pranayama for prana, dhyana pranayama, sadhak pranayama, essential oils, head massage with pitta pacifying herbs, meditation. Okay, this is done. All right, Udana Vata governs speech, communication, strength, vitality, voice, and also your facial expressions. The person is talking, they're talking too much, they can't stop talking. I don't know, I've met some people. They walk in and I ask them, how can I help you? What is it that we're going to tackle today? And they talk like for 30 minutes and I don't get a word in. What would that tell you if somebody is doing that? Have you met people like that? You can't get a word in. And it's a problem because their Udana Vata is affected. There's nothing wrong with them. This means that Udana Vata is overactive, it's affected, they need to calm down, their Vata is very high. Exactly. You got it. You got it. Exactly. Now, because of this, won't you look at that annoying person who was talking too much, and now you can be amused by it and you can help them. One of the things to help is gargling with sesame oil, or yeah, gargling with sesame oil is good. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to say, for sadhak pitta and pranayama, if somebody has nasal congestion, that can also affect pranavaha srotas in sadhak pitta. So doing the nasya and neti pot will also help. Or let's say somebody, they are unable to express themselves, their voice is very low, they have problem communicating and they forget things, low voice. That is also to do with Udana. And you can ask them to start singing. Singing, yes, doing mantras repeatedly, putting some stimulating vata essential oil like lemon on their throat. Is it making sense? It's all coming together. If a person does not like to be touched, don't touch me, then it is a Vyan and Sadhak Pitta issue both. Let's move down to the subdoshas of Kapha. We've already done the Kapha women. So this is kind of, if somebody has dryness in joint, or the joints ache, or they have frozen shoulder, they've had tennis elbow, or their joints pop. What is happening when the joints pop? There's an air pocket inside there. And they've been told that their joints rub together. Especially you'll be seen in people who've had Vata, people with arthritis will be seen. So that is seen there. Avalamba kapha is also related to your What is happening here? What is Avalamba Kapha doing? What is Avalamba Kapha? Can anybody tell me? Protecting what? What does Avalamba Kapha protect? Kapha in the body or excessive Kapha in the body, it will block your Pran and Vyan and Sadhaka. Avalamba Kapha, for example, somebody has issues in their lungs, you know, they have some inflammation there, which will dry out the Avalamba Kapha a little bit, right? Or if there's heat in the lungs, it'll dry out the Avalamba Kapha. So there's no protection. Suddenly, their Pran is affected. The way their breathing is affected. The Pranavasrotas is affected. Then you will see their Sadhak Pitta and Vyanvata is also affected. So Avalamba Kapha in one sense, I just wanted to tie it together. If somebody has issues, they have sinus issues, or you know, they tend to have ear, nose, throat infections, and they tend to have you know, Sadhak Pitta issues, you want to look at their Avalamba Kapha and see what is happening there. So even though this is not directly related, but you know, it does protect all the three. What about Tarpa Kapha? What does Tarpa Kapha do? Yes, it is the fluid in the peritoneum. That's correct. What does Tarpa Kapha do? Can everybody see this? So Kleda Kapha we've done, Shleshak we have done, Avlambak we've done. If anybody has congestion, that's Avlambak. If there's inflammation, heat in the lungs, or pain even in the back and the spine and heat, then that means that Avalamba Kapha is dried up. So lubrication there with sesame oil or some kind of oil would help. And if there's congestion, you should stay away from oil, and drying herbs are given at that time. Tarpa Kapha, so think your head. Now let's go back to the head. Tarpa Kapha is right here. Tarpa Kapha is protecting the brain, protecting the skull. It is in your sinuses, nose, and so on. If somebody has a dry nasal crust, very, very dry nasal crust, is their Tarpa Kapha affected, yes or no? If somebody has excessive mucus and sinus issues, is their Tarpa Kapha affected, yes or no? Absolutely. So one thing to ask when you do the case study is, even if a person, so asking a question is an art here. It's called prashanam. So you have three ways of doing assessment or biofeedback, as I call it. One is by asking questions. And my guru always said, you know, you're like Sherlock Holmes, use deductive reasoning and ask the right question. So if you say, do you have any sinus issues? And if they don't have a sinus issue right now, they'll say, no. Have you in your life, you tend to suffer from, you know, sinus congestion or problems? And you'll have people who sometimes don't know, you know, medical jargon. So you need to say it in a layman language. Do you have problems breathing in, breathing out? Is there blockages? Do you have, you know, dryness there? Or do you have excessive moisture in your nose? Do your eyes water a lot? Does your mouth have excessive salivation? And so on. And do your sinuses, even when you were a kid, did they used to be blocked? Or do you get headaches when you have a sinus issue? It's all related to Tarpaka. Tarpaka protects prana. Tarpaka has a relationship specifically with prana. Why? And pranavaha srotas. Because pranavaha srotas start from your nose, and Tarpa Kapha is on the nose. So when Tarpa Kapha, when somebody has a dry nasal crust, then what is happening? There's dryness there. There's nothing to protect, and a lot of allergens and environmental toxins can go through in the nose and disturb the nasal passages. And they can go in and disturb us. So Tarpa Kapha in one sense protects prana and pranavaha srotas. And that's it. We are done with our form. Any questions? So please do not put your case study's name and keep it anonymous. Why do we want to do that? Last time we had one student who didn't care because it was her and her family, so that was fine with us. But remember, we share your case studies. We have a database. We share your case studies with other students sometimes. So we kind of really don't want to know, and we also want to protect the privacy of your clients. Please put your batch name followed by your name. Now we've had over 225 students, so at this point we can't keep track of, you've had many names. You had about 5 Anns and 3 Carolyns, and you are second Angel. you have 2 Deborahs, so we don't know which one did it. So having the batch name lets us know from this batch this is the person. So if you're batch 16, you write 16 dash whatever your username is. And also when you save the case study file, you will save it as a case study 01 14A dash Atul, or 16 dash Celia, or 16 or 15 dash Laura. So we know when we save it, we know what to do. Okay. Now you can actually, if you are very used to using PDF, Adobe Reader PDF allows you to annotate online on the PDF form itself. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is actually print it out, use neat and clean handwriting, and then a lot of people take a really good picture with their whatever smartphone. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjansalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Bhurbhuvah Suvah Tatsaviturvareniyam Vishnudevasya Dhimahi Dhyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Dhanantaraya Namaha. I invoke blessings of Sri Guru, spiritual masters, ascended masters, acharyas of Ayurveda, as well as Lord Dhanvantari, aspect of Vishnu, to bless us so that knowledge of Ayurveda may manifest in us. Knowledge of Ayurveda is not linear, it's circular, it needs to manifest, because human being is not just a physical body. Human being has an aspect, they have consciousness, they have spirit, they have Atma, they have the 5 koshas. So when we talk about a human, we're talking about mind and the body and the soul. So within the body, there's mind, which is the ruler and the king of all the senses. So a balanced person is someone whose senses are balanced. And today's day and age, that's not possible. That's why meditation becomes such an important protocol. What we're doing today is the case study form. And everything we've done in this course from day one, we started off doing what is Ayurveda, then we did the Prakriti test, then we did the Vikriti test, finding out what is the changes. We did the Agni assessment. All of that has been leading up to this form. And from today up till June 15th, you have enough so you know exactly. This is what it looks like. On the left-hand side, you have the case study number. So you will do 4 case studies. You can write your name, date. You can write your username. We're going to save this, but do not write the name of the person you're doing the case study for. On the left-hand side, you write number 1, 2, 3, 4. And even if it's a self case study, there's no need to write self. It's just 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. And you can choose one of the case studies that I would prefer, the one that you find most difficulty in doing, especially when you're doing a case study for a man. They're not very forthcoming. So that would be the most important. So you actually present it in person to me and Dr. Kirti. And if you could present one case study next week, next Sunday morning, that would be fantastic. If there's no case study, then there's no point having a class. Then we present it in June. And the 3, we will be giving you feedback over email as well. So, of course, you write whether this person is male and female. Why, if this person is female, then we need to ask questions about, whether the, lady is always in a stage, whether they're in, the pitta stage of life, kapha stage of life, or vata stage of life. Vata stage of life means that they're in perimenopause or menopause or postmenopause. Pitta stage of life is somewhere between 15 and 45 or 48 years of age. And kapha stage of life is young teenager, which you can, please don't do any case study for someone less than 14, 15 years of age. This is not for kids, so teenager is okay, and teenager and above. And we have the dosha test form. So let's go back to this. Number one, please make a disclaimer. Even if you're not charging any money, it's all free, you're just doing it for the school, make a disclaimer that you're not a doctor unless you are one, and this is for informational purposes only. Remember, Ayurveda is not recognized as medicine, but it is recognized in California as a holistic health modality. And different states have different laws. Up till about 5 years ago, it was not recognized in New Mexico. And in places like Nevada, an Ayurvedic practitioner cannot touch and check the pulse. You could do that here in California because it's done as biofeedback. So please get a disclaimer signed. I'm not a doctor. This is for informational purposes only. I have a disclaimer on my website. You can use mine. You can make one of your own. Please make sure it's signed. It's for informational purposes only. If you do suggest some herbs, these herbs are informational, not recognized. They're not meant to cure, diagnose any disease. And going forward, when you actually have real-time clients, please make sure that you have a very professional looking disclaimer. Time to do 4 case studies. Out of those 4 case studies, 1 you have to present to us in person, and 3 you can present via email and so on. And this is the most important takeaway of the Block 1 course. And Block 2 is built upon this course. If you're planning to do Block 2, it'll be built upon this case study form, gets more and more and more comprehensive as the year goes along. So right off the bat, you're going to see a case study form. Let me just share the case study form with you. This is what it looks like. You will make 4 copies of this form. They'll be available. And you can use yourself as your own 1 case study and 3 more people. Before, we used to actually just have 2 people. And we didn't think that it actually was enough practice. And you can find friends, you can find family, and you have to do 4. That's why we're giving you enough time, almost a month, to finish them. A lot of people, they will put it on, if they go to a yoga studio, they'll put it on the board there, needed volunteers for an Ayurvedic assessment. You don't have to do any protocols. That's not the aim and objective of this form. The aim and objective of the form is, can you recognize the root cause of the problem? The root cause is the problem. At the same time, trying to identify the causative factors is important. So this is what it looks like, right? Maybe at the end of the class, I can have one of you volunteer as my case study.